Part 11, Chapter 21 and 22. Chapter 21, Self-Awareness. Since they had set out, they hadn't exchanged a single word. They remained stubbornly silent. Maybe that was for the best. Kilan didn't know what might have slipped out once he got going. There were countless words he would have regretted. Now and then, they exchanged glances. Did they seriously think Kilan didn't notice? Once they arrived back at the organization, he marched straight down the corridor with determination, while the others followed him blindly. No one dared to stop him. Why not? For 2 hours, he couldn't think about anything else, no matter how hard he tried. Was Kilan's body safe with them? And even if it wasn't, what difference did it make? That body was nothing but a shell, one that would never belong to Kilan again. His self had vanished into nothingness. But was he still his brother nonetheless? What kind of woman was this mother who led an organization? What did she look like? Was she the mother he had always wanted to meet? Did she miss her other son, or was she content with the presence of just one? Who was her husband? Was he alive? Did they work together? When they reached the boss's door, he couldn't restrain himself. Something inside him began to boil. With all his strength, he slammed both fists against the door. Hopefully, he'd torn him from his sleep. Why don't you show yourself? You're abandoning your people. Do you hear me? Stop it, Kilan! Slivon shouted, wrapping his arms around him. Even though he held him tightly, he couldn't quite pull him away from the door. Aaron stood off to the side as an uninvolved observer. Jiyan looked at him for help, but he kept his eyes on Kilan. Why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you stopping me? Am I not important enough to anyone? Kilan kicked the door with full force. The pain from the impact crept up into his thighs. It wasn't enough. Not now. No sense of satisfaction set in. Come out here already! You make us do all the work! What kind of coward hides like this? Fine needles pricked at his throat. It burned. His voice grew hoarse. Wasn't he saying out loud what everyone else secretly thought? Hadn't he hit the core of it? The fact that the boss never showed himself made him doubt. Did the boss even exist? Hadn't Slivon been mistaken? Several teams and residents emerged from their rooms. They looked at him with hostility. They clearly didn't share his opinion. It had been a long time since he'd felt such looks directed at him. What did it matter? Maybe no one had ever really accepted him anyway. This isn't helping, Kilan, Slivon said. His words gave Kilan another surge of energy. He struggled against Slivon's grip. That damn bastard playing boss and doing absolutely nothing can go to hell. What does he even do besides sitting in his room, huh? More than you think. As yet appeared, he folded his arms across his chest. Everyone present suddenly snapped to attention and saluted briefly, something as yet never wanted. Even though he hadn't said much, Kilan felt a bad sensation twist in his stomach. Why was he always immediately on the scene? How could he keep track of so many people? Eziet's brown eyes still seemed gentle and kind, yet something dangerous radiated from him. Was it his height, or his thick eyebrows, which conveyed hardness whenever he drew them together? Or the scars hidden beneath his 3-day beard? Where had he gotten them, if he never left the organization? Jiyan calmed down a little, But Slivon didn't let go. "What do you want?" Kilan asked more quietly. "Situation report," Ezyet demanded. Aaron recounted their experiences in a flat, factual tone. He didn't even omit the mention of Kian's mother. Why had no one mentioned his mother earlier? Everyone knew. If Slivon hadn't misspoken, when would he have found out? When he'd fought against them? "You've been through a lot. We know that," Ezyet said with a sigh. He spoke in the tone of a father addressing his son, as if his patience were about to snap. But that wasn't true. Ezyet never lost his patience. "But you need to get your emotions under control." Wait, he wasn't going to exclude him from missions, was he? But then, "I want the boss to show himself," Kilan said more quietly. "That's all." Ezyet stepped closer. "That's not possible at the moment. I speak with him regularly. Believe me, he works hard. No one realizes how much he's done for the organization, for us humans. How am I supposed to understand if you don't explain anything?" The words were on the tip of his tongue, but he swallowed them. Who was this man, if even Ezyet held him in such high regard? Silence fell. Suddenly, one resident was seized by a harsh, dry coughing fit. He wheezed. It took a while to subside. Aside from his labored breathing, he didn't seem ill. What was that about all of a sudden? Ezyet unfolded his arms. "Ultimately, the Slivons want the same thing we do, to live." Kilan focused on him again. He swallowed. Why did Ezyet sound as though he sympathized with the Slivons? Didn't he despise them? Wasn't hating Slivons a fundamental requirement of the CRs? "The organization's goal is not to eradicate the Slivons," Ezyet continued. There was no smile, only bare truth. "The Slivons are not our enemies. There is a way to reclaim our city without completely destroying the Sliv." "What are you talking about, Ezyet?" Kilan cut in. None of the others spoke up, even though they frowned. Apparently, the organization's true goal wasn't fully known to anyone. "We have to kill them! Do you feel sorry for them now? What is the boss waiting for? What's his plan?" Ezyet shook his head. "Not now, Kilan. The time hasn't come yet." He turned on his heel, glanced at Kilan over his shoulder, then looked at Aaron. "Return to your rooms and take good care of one another." Kilan began forcefully. At the same moment, he felt the others' gazes on him again. He reined himself in. His pulse spiked, pounding in his ears. If Ezyet hadn't been there, he was certain the others would have given him a piece of their minds. In Ezyet's presence, everyone remained absolutely obedient. For a while, Kilan ground his teeth until the veins in his neck bulged. If he wasn't allowed to kill Slivons one by one, where was he supposed to draw his motivation from? Didn't he want to crush them with his own hands until they burst? Wasn't his goal to drive electricity through their bodies and give the human a second chance? To see them steam in his hands? "Okay, stop," Kilan finally called out. He forced a smile onto his face. His jaw muscles ached as he furrowed his brows. I'm sorry, okay? I'm an idiot who said stupid things. I guess I'm just too tired. I need my pills." He forced a laugh. Sorry if I woke anyone up." The tension in the air eased. Ezyet gave him a half smile and raised his arm in farewell. Was that gratitude in his eyes? The others returned to their rooms as well. At that moment, Slivon released him with a sigh. "Well done," he whispered. Then Yumi returned to Kiyen's thoughts. Wouldn't it be easier to give up and leave everything behind? What had her last thoughts been? What event had triggered it all? He suddenly flinched when Aaron placed a hand on his shoulder. Aaron looked him straight in the eyes. "Thank you." "For what?" Aaron lowered his voice. "For pulling yourself together at the right moment." Once again, Kiyan clenched his teeth. As they walked down the corridor together, words hovered on his tongue. One question in particular. How much did Aaron really know about the world? "Eziet understands your feelings better than anyone," Aaron said. Before Kiyan could object, he added, "He was thinking of you. After every mission, a team leader has to give Eziet a detailed report. He let me go so I could be there for you." "It's okay if you get heated, you know?" Aaron interrupted. As they walked, they looked at each other for a moment. Where did this understanding suddenly come from? It's not right to restrain someone during an emotional outburst. "Once we're back in our room, you can let everything out. We'll catch you. We'll make sure you never wear the expression Yumi had before she disappeared from our lives." Aaron's gaze softened, the hint of a smile appearing. "I don't want to lose anyone. I've lost enough, you know?" It was early morning. His teammates weren't around. Were they in the training hall? Most likely, Yumi would be there. When did she ever use her free time to relax? Where Yumi was, Amir was too. And since Jade got lonely quickly, she'd stay with them. Liam had countless other things to take care of. He couldn't stay in one place for long. Kilan strolled down the corridor of the Sin headquarters. Many people hurried past him, frantic. He wasn't in a rush. Everyone else was. They didn't notice how life was slipping by. Everyone was rushing. Everyone driven by different motivations and emotions. He clenched one hand into a fist. As he passed a door, he caught a flash of white in the corner of his eye. He stopped immediately and looked inside. She was in the archive. Dozens of books lay scattered across the floor, some lying open. She stood before a shelf, running her fingers over the spines. Whenever she found something suitable, she pulled it out, only to drop it again shortly after. She was wearing her uniform. Was she on duty? Hadn't she quit that job? She'd let her brown hair grow long. It reached her back now. Deep, dark circles and shadows made her look terrible. She flinched the moment Kilan entered the room. "Hi," he greeted her, raising a hand. She stared at him as if frozen, as though she were seeing someone dead return to life. "Hello? Can I help you?" He leaned back against the shelf, studying Jiyan. What was she looking for in the archive? He'd seen her slipping through these rooms several times before, but never knew what she was searching for. When had they last spoken? It felt as though she were trying to avoid running into him. She shook her head. After a moment, she tore her gaze away and turned back to the books. Was her behavior meant to say, "Go away"? "Long time no see," he remarked casually. If he became more insistent, could he get her to talk? "Are you doing okay?" She froze mid-motion, her hand hovering over a book. Something held her back from continuing. Why wouldn't I be okay? I've never been better. You look overworked, he said bluntly. Like you've been thinking a lot. Her pupils widened ever so slightly. Had he struck a nerve? Jiyan forced a smile. I'm looking for answers. I thought I might find them here, but it's not important. Maybe I have the answers. She laughed, clearly not believing for a second that he could help her. Before you can give me answers, humans and Slivons will get along. Then she sighed when he didn't back down. Humans need an advantage. I'm looking for that advantage. An advantage for what? Her knuckles turned white as she grabbed a book. She straightened her back. For everything. For them to accept us, they need an advantage. That's how humans are. Without benefits, they do nothing. He folded his arms across his chest. A sharp pain pierced his heart. Was creating coexistence really that important to her? He hadn't seen it with his own eyes, but through reports he'd learned that she'd been giving public speeches regularly over the past 2 years. Could she influence the Slivon's way of thinking? Would the president be pleased? You don't need to give humans anything to make them compliant, he began. He paused. Their gazes met. She was focused entirely on him. He tensed. You need to take something away. She broke eye contact and stared at the floor for a moment, as if something there had caught her attention. Take something away? Are you talking about the self? Her breathing quickened as she lifted her head, a spark igniting in her eyes. Do you know what the self is made of? Let's assume that all the interconnected nerves create this self-awareness. That would mean our self-awareness is a random product every second, and the brain merely tricks us into believing the self is permanently present. That. He covered her mouth with his hand. I'm sorry, but you talk too much. Gently, he patted her head, then sighed and grew thoughtful. It dawned on him that no one would ever share his way of thinking. Wasn't everyone ultimately on their own? The driving force of every living being is emotion. You understand? And you sound like you deeply hate your own self. What? Her eyes darted around, unable to settle anywhere. What had he set in motion? Tears suddenly welled up. She raised her hand. A finger brushed his cheek. He felt no warmth. A strong wish rose in him for her not to be wearing gloves. She stepped back, unsteady. Did it? She didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she stared at him without blinking. Jiyan, he called softly, stepping closer and taking a strand of her hair in his hand. If he hadn't been wearing gloves, he might have felt something, but at least he could smell her scent. Soon, he glanced aside. A woman in a white coat stood in the doorway. He recognized Zaina instantly. How long had she been there without him noticing? How much had she heard? She stepped inside cheerfully. From behind, she wrapped Jiyan in a tight hug. It's so good to see you. What are you doing here? Jiyan asked. Visiting my fiancé. She kissed Jiyan's cheek 3 times in a row. Her lipstick left marks on her skin. If I don't stop by every now and then, I don't see either of you. And my birthday's coming up soon. Your birthday, right. I can't wait to celebrate it with you. Kilan glanced toward the door. Wouldn't it be easier to slip away without saying goodbye and leave the sisters to their moment? Hello. Zaina greeted him unexpectedly. So much for that idea. Good morning, Miss Ito. he replied. The desire to disappear only grew stronger. A smile spread across her face. Still holding on to Jiyan, she rested her chin on her shoulder and scanned Kilan with impressive finesse. Without making him uncomfortable, there was a lightness in her voice. She was talented at that. Thank you for keeping my little sister company. Dealing with her isn't easy. Kilan remained silent. Something stood between them. Coldness, unspoken words. He wanted to tear her face apart with his hands. You hear quite a few things about your family? She changed the subject. Heard any of it yet? He didn't respond. He didn't need to. She wasn't expecting an answer. He'd researched the president's daughter enough to gauge her. She was lying in wait. The father snapped, your brother and you awakened, she listed calmly. It's only a matter of time before your mother short-circuits too. Is that your family's fault, or are you just unlucky? Jiyan shot Zaina a sharp look. Dania! It's fine. Still watching Kilan, she tightened her grip around Jiyan. I didn't say I share that opinion. The other Sin leaders distrust Kate, understandable. But she has my full trust. She smiled at Kilan, her black eyes seeming to swallow him whole. There was unmistakable coldness between them. Kilan smiled back, one of his easiest tasks. He would have loved to grab her by the collar and put her in her place. Instead, he replied in the same polite tone. Thank you for informing me. If you'll excuse me, I'm looking for my team. I wish you a pleasant day. When he reached the door, he turned his head one last time. He saw Jiyan nudge her sister playfully. Zaina didn't let her go. Instead, she swayed her gently from side to side. Both of them were smiling. It didn't matter. He left. Everything would come to an end soon. Chapter 22. Obedience. There was a lively exchange. All teams had been ordered into the assembly hall. Obediently, they remained seated on their folding chairs while patiently waiting for the Sin leaders. The leaders took their time. Kilan and his team were seated in the very last row. From here, Kilan could think in peace. Lost in thought, he stared out the window. He had tuned out the murmur of voices around him. His attention was fixed on 3 people he had noticed outside, 1 man and 2 women. While the man spoke with one of the women, his other companion silently looked up at him. She quickly clutched his arm, marking her territory. The woman didn't like that her partner was giving attention to another woman, attention that should have belonged to her. From that indefinable feeling, something larger would grow. More and more. The feeling would force the woman to react. Before she realized it, she would have acted. Her actions would stir emotions in the man, which would in turn make him act. An endless cycle. What are you thinking about right now? Liam asked Kilan directly, without looking at him. Even if it wasn't obvious at first glance, he often checked on the state of his team members. Whether that was good or bad, Kilan couldn't tell. Amir grinned. I can guess what Kilan's thinking. The 2 women are pretty. Even though no one can hold a candle to Yumi, just wanted to point that out. I'm not thinking about anything, Kilan replied curtly. He looked at his teammates. Each of them had something different on their mind. He analyzed their facial expressions. All of them were driven by emotions. Thanks for paying attention and thinking of me. Immediately, everyone stared at him. A few seconds passed. Thoughts churned. Feelings rose. Intent formed. Jade was the first to smile. Yumi was not. "Sometimes you're really strange, Kilan," Jade said. "But that's what makes you special." Suddenly, the room fell silent. A draft was noticeable. The Sin leaders appeared. Kilan spotted his mother entering last. For a split second, a soft expression crossed her face. She quickly resumed her professional demeanor. The other two Sin leaders, an old man named Ren and a man around his mother's age named Reeve, stepped forward into the focus of everyone's attention. It was as if Kate hid behind them. None of them paid her any attention, as though they didn't take his mother seriously. In their eyes, she was nothing. "Thank you for appearing," Ren began. His voice was devoid of genuine emotion. Did no one else notice? Probably not. This man saw them as pieces on a board. His ego had to be enormous. "On behalf of my colleagues, I would like to express our praise. You are the pillars protecting our city. Thank you for your daily commitment." Everyone in the room hung on his every word. They craved his recognition. He had the organization under control, better than his mother, who was a shadow of her former self. Today, worse than usual. What had happened beforehand? Had the other two said something to her before she came in? The two leaders harassed her, humiliated her, and enjoyed every second of it. "We mourn the loss of our fallen comrades last night," Ren continued. No real emotion showed on his face. Their deaths didn't trouble him in the slightest. If anything stirred within him, it was irritation. Irritation that last night hadn't gone according to plan. "The CRs took their bodies. We have lost them permanently." He looked at Kate and deliberately drew the audience's attention to her. "Sometimes wrong decisions are made." The team acted under Kate's orders. "I ask you to excuse her. She is not herself." His voice hardened. He pretended to protect Kate, but it felt very different. Kilan clenched his fist. Should he raise his voice? Wouldn't that draw even more attention to him than he already had? The muscles in his arms and legs tensed. How dare he destroy his mother's reputation right in front of him? "Let us grieve for our comrades," Ren instructed. "They were not at fault. They obeyed. They were not incompetent." Everyone went down on one knee, covering their eyes and mouths. In Kilan's presence, Ren held nothing back. He simply didn't care what Kilan thought. What was he trying to achieve? Was he trying to provoke him? Was his goal to get rid of both him and his mother? Did they want the organization all to themselves? And yet, it was his mother who had built the organization with her own strength. Who did they think they were? "Enough," Ren said, and everyone returned to their chairs. His gaze lingered on the last row. While everyone else had mourned, Kilan and his team, probably out of solidarity, hadn't moved an inch. "How am I supposed to interpret your behavior?" All heads turned toward them. Kilan sighed. Drawing even more attention was the last thing he wanted. Just as he was about to stand up and perform the mourning gesture belatedly, Jade jumped to her feet with energy. Her chair toppled over sideways. "Stop blaming Kate for everything," she shouted. "Kate has lost so much already. You can't take her work away from her too." "Jade," Liam called cautiously. She shook her head fiercely. "For once, I can't listen to you, Liam. I'm sorry. I won't allow anyone to hurt my friends." If I'm not capable of protecting my friends, then I don't deserve their friendship. She pointed at Ren. You're tormenting Kate right in front of Kilan's eyes. What is that supposed? Jade suddenly collapsed. A guard stood behind her, having used an electric shock device. Jade breathed heavily. From the floor, she looked up at him, her eyes practically glowing. She clenched her teeth but couldn't move. The Slivon did not leave her body. A peculiarity of the sins. Every sin survived a lethal attack after every third day. If that wasn't the case, they were never accepted as rank 2 in the first place. He remembered his final examination. He had been in a white, empty room with his team and other aspiring soldiers. At the time, he didn't know his team and had no idea they would soon work together. Before he was called forward, he had seen countless others fail, awakening the human inside them. They were immediately dragged away to have their self eliminated once more. Eventually, it was his turn. The examiner had administered a powerful electric shock, one he remembered to this day. He had survived. All of them had. Why could some Slivons do that? And more importantly, did the CRs know about this ability? Good, let's continue, Ren said, ignoring Jade's outburst completely. Kilan helped Jade to her feet while Liam set her chair upright. Her hair stood on end. He smoothed it down, though it didn't help much. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, I did, she replied with determination. I don't abandon my friends. You are the most important thing to me. If I don't raise my voice for you, then for whom? She flinched when Yumi shot her a dark look. Yumi sighed. What utter nonsense! Pull yourself together. I don't want us to lose our position because of you. But I'm not allowed to attract negative attention. Yumi cut her off sharply, fixing her with a stern gaze. Understood? Jade snorted. Yes. Thanks anyway, Kilan said, smiling. Her mood lifted instantly. Anytime. She flinched again when Yumi glared at her once more. You have to understand Yumi, Amir began, putting an arm around Jade and pulling her closer. Yumi is burning to become the president's bodyguard. I've had that dream for as long as I can remember, too. If we attract negative attention, that dream is over. He grimaced. Liam raised his hand, silencing them all. Listen to the Sin leaders. Show them respect. Yes, Amir and Jade murmured in unison. Once more, Kilan looked at his mother. Their gazes met for a brief moment. They shared a small smile. Her suffering, too, would soon come to an end. In the dining hall, Aaron, Slivon, Wenjana, and Kiyan sat among themselves. On the other side of the room, things were much livelier. They ate their meal together. A week had passed since their last mission. Would they receive no more missions? Had Kiyan gone too far? So far, no one had reproached him. Ezyet sat at another team's table, eating from their large bowl while listening to their conversation. Kiyan had noticed that Ezyet changed tables often. He favored no particular table, no particular team. Several times he had eaten with them as well. It was dreadful. Each time, Kiyan stiffened and lost his appetite. Although Ezyet was approachable and made time for every triviality, Kilan couldn't completely suppress the fact that he was the biological father of the monster. He often saw her in him. Had as yet been himself when he conceived her? Or had the Slivon already taken hold? With both hands, Kilan wanted to tear those all too familiar eyes from their sockets. The urge grew stronger every day. Did Eziet sense any of his feelings? Why had he never mentioned his daughter again since the first day? Was the monster not important to him? "Don't be angry with him," he heard Aaron say. "If you keep staring at him like that, you'll get a headache." Kilan paused mid-bite. "What?" "Eziet cares about everyone's well-being," Aaron explained. "Community is very important to him. He has a high emotional social intelligence. He can smell traitors faster than you'd think." Kilan nearly laughed out loud. He could do that? Neither he nor the boss are capable of leading the CRs properly. Had there already been traitors among them? What had Eziet done with them? Banishment from the organization couldn't have been enough. "Not so loud," Slivon whispered urgently, glancing around to make sure no one had overheard. He exhaled in relief. "Someday, Kilan is going to get me into trouble." Wenjana kept her hands under the table and waited. She had divided the last piece of bread into 3 parts and given them to her comrades. Her gaze revealed a mental emptiness. How much of their conversation had she already forgotten? Aaron swirled his spoon. A drop landed on the table. "Do you think all of this is coincidence?" "What?" Kilan became alert. Unconsciously, he leaned forward slightly. "What exactly do you mean?" "Listen," Aaron said. "The fact that we all have to eat from one bowl, that we share rooms, that we receive collective punishments, or are never allowed to be alone, none of this is left to chance. Eziet knows what he's doing. He knows how to strengthen a sense of community. With his sensitive instincts, he can read people. Be careful with your facial expressions and gestures around him. I strongly suspect that Eziet is responsible for group cohesion, while the boss keeps an eye on the bigger picture." At the edge of his awareness, Kilan registered a coughing fit. "What is the organization's goal? I want to know." As if he would ever abide by keeping Slivons alive. Every single one of them had to die. Only when the city was free of Slivons would they be safe forever. Then he would have finally achieved his goal. In a corner, someone else began coughing. Kilan watched them. Both were residents of the organization. Was there a connection? The coughing had been getting worse every week. What would happen if all the CRs fell ill? Had there ever been a similar case? As far as he knew, there were residents with medical knowledge. But what good was that if no resources were available? Kilan shook his head. Why was he thinking so much about coughing? He was spiraling. "I know," Aaron began, "that certain people in the city are constantly being watched by CRs, always in rotation. I don't yet understand what's special about them, but they are under the organization's protection." Kilan leaned back. "Do these people have anything in common?" He dug his fingers into his thighs. Aaron was sharing something about the city, something rare. The trust Aaron showed them set his heart racing. "I haven't noticed anything like that," Aaron said. His gaze moved between Wenjana, Slivon, and Kilan. but they must be extremely important. Important enough that CRs would have to give their lives for them? Slivon asked, around a mouthful of bread, frowning. Aaron nodded. We leaders aren't informed, but the boss has something specific planned for them.